Hi everyone, welcome to Café con Pan. My name is Andrea.
And I'm Denise.
And today we're here with a special guest and friend, Bethel.
Hey, Bethel.
Hi.
Oh, you're doing great. So today we're going to be talking about first generation lives and advice because we are all first gen students here at Willamette. I personally have always struggled with the term first gen because I didn't know what that meant growing up. I think like my mom had described it once, like saying like, oh, you're a first gen person. And I was like, what does that even mean? And then she described it to me as being someone who was like born here because my dad and her were born in Mexico. So like hence like first generation of being here. But then I always got confused because I was like, well, my sister is the first one in my family to graduate from college. So is she first gen? Or am I first gen? Or are we both first gen? That's the question. I don't know. What do you all think?
Yeah, so growing up, I also had the same struggle of not knowing how to define it. I think in high school, I kind of learned to define it as being the first in your family or being the first out of your parents, I guess, to go to college. And so that's the way I've been thinking about it in terms of education and in terms of school. But I think there's other ways to define it in terms of, like, if you think about immigration, I think it makes sense to think about it like the first generation, like, being born in the U.S. So, like, that's a difference that I've thought about. But in terms of school, yeah, I've always thought about it as the first in your family to, or the first out of your parents to go to college. And so for my family, I'm the oldest out of my siblings. So, yeah, I consider myself first gen.
Yeah, I agree with a lot of the things that you said, like being first gen in terms of like when you're talking about immigration, like if you're the first one in your family to be born in the United States, you would be like first gen to the United States of America. So in that way, I consider myself to be first gen. And also like in terms of education, my parents didn't go to college, so then, I would be first gen in college as well. And then sometimes like thinking about the fact that, because like obviously first gen students can also be, white. Like it doesn't, like you don't have to have like a very recent history of immigration to be like a first gen college student. But sometimes I just think about the fact that we all call ourselves first gen, but sometimes there's just a lot of layers to that, including like, immigration history and
being POC and
yeah.
I think especially like living on a campus that is so white, and being in Salem, and I mean, Andrea, you're from California, I'm from California, Bethel, you're from Portland, so it definitely is like a different feel here, being surrounded by all of these things. And like one thing that like I always when I first came here as a first year, I heard about the first gen book drive, and like I thought that was like through like the OMA, which is like the Office of Multicultural Affairs, and I was like, oh, that's really cool, like it's first gen books that are given within like the POC community. But then like I heard like white people being like, I can go and grab a book, and I'm like, wait, what? You're first gen? I didn't know that. And it's just different because it's like POCs like tend to need like just like, all the social shit that happens and like the injustices, like it's hard being a POC first gen student. And so being able to access books like for free, textbooks, like especially since they're so expensive for like college classes, like it's nice to have that kind of like organization and thing that we have on campus, which is really cool.
Yeah, I think it's really important to think about like the different experiences that come with being first gen and thinking about like education, because like obviously not everyone who is first gen like has the same experiences throughout life and like status like socioeconomically and things like that. And so yeah, and thinking about like the book drive also, I remember talking to a few people and they mentioned that like Willamette wanted to make the book drive like accessible to all campus just because like they wanted to open it up and like be more fair and like equitable. And like in thinking about the conversations that come with that, about how even a resource that's meant for first gen students can then be like expanded. Like, yeah, I don't really know how I feel about like white students being able to access it, because I feel like then like a white student who does identify as first gen can be like, oh well, I can access it too. And then I feel like that kind of opens a window for other like white students who like might say like I'm low income, I can use it too, and things like that. So I feel like that's another complicated thing to navigate, but
just first gen things, you know.
That reminds me of like with being white. I don't know if y'all have heard of the term of like white hoarding or something like that. I learned about it in social theory my second year, so last year, and basically how, you know, statistically white individuals usually, you know, keep their knowledge and their resources within their circles of predominantly white, like,
I've heard of that.
Yeah, white people, white communities. So even if you are a white first-gen student on a college campus, there is a higher chance that you have more resources because of the connections you have that come with the color of your skin, and like the privilege that comes with being white. And like, I mean, sorry, I guess like we have 2 sociology majors. Question mark, you're a sociology major? Yeah.
Yes. Not sure, but I'm just gonna say
but like, just, I don't know, so maybe I'm thinking too much into it, but like, it just reminds me of that. Like, yeah, we both have the same experience of being the first ones from our family to be in college, or like at least from our parents, but at the same time growing up, and like that all just accumulates until up to like when we're older, and like there are things that, you know, white students will experience in their like either their childhood or like in high school, and that students of color don't have access to or aren't able to experience, which the university, I guess, doesn't take that into account, or doesn't know that exists, or maybe they do know that exists, but like they just want to cater to white people again.
Wow, mind blown. This is great. I took, I think, like 1 or 2 social classes, and everything that you just said has been terrific, because like if you're listening, please go take a social class. Take a sociology class anywhere you can, because honestly, taking a social class opened up my mind to so many things.
Really?
Yeah.
That class that I learned that from made me not want to be a social major.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it was my worst experience in sociology. But, like, I'm still a social major.
Yeah.
It was just 1 class. But
That's
it's like, yeah, I guess I learned, like, 2 things from it, maybe.
Yeah, that's how I feel about that class, too. I feel like a lot of the time, there were a lot of, well, I mean, in Willamette generally, but, like, specifically in that class, there were a lot of white people, and, like, I feel like what you just mentioned reminded me of a conversation we had one time. I can't remember, like, what theory we were talking about, but I remember someone mentioning that they were, like, first gen because their parents, like, I think they said, like, had started college but then had dropped out, so they were talking about that in that aspect of, like, oh, yeah, like, they started but they didn't finish, and then they were, like, complaining, and I guess, like, fairly so, about, like, how expensive Willamette is, but they kept going on about how, like, expensive it is, and how, like, annoying it is to, like, have to apply to, like, financial aid through FAFSA, and, like, how that process is so, like, long, and, like, how it's, like, annoying to ask your parents for help with that, and, like, things like that. And, like, I don't know, that class specifically was really hard, but also that process of, like, and, like, the connection to, like, being first gen again, because I know that, like, when I was applying to financial aid, like, my parents couldn't help me with that, and, like, they've never had any experience within, like, higher education even, and, like, yeah, like, even the fact that they were complaining about, like, having to apply for federal financial aid was really frustrating, because, like, as an immigrant myself, like, I can't get any, like, federal aid, so that was frustrating, like, having them talk about how, like, expensive it is, and, like, how annoying it is to have to take out loans, and it's, like, yeah, like, I can't even take out loans, like, I don't even have that option, so it's, like, yeah, going back to, like, the different experiences that come through being first gen, like, yeah, you can be first gen, but, like, you have all these other resources that are given to you because you're white, and because, like, your family, like, benefits from the system and things like that.
Yeah. Damn. I know, like talking about, like, first generation things, and, like, especially, like, being the first to, like, go to college and stuff like that, like, I'm the youngest in my family, so it's just me and my older sister. And I know, Bethel, you're the oldest, right? Andrea, are you the oldest, too? Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, like, I think it's definitely different, too, because, like, when, like, my sister was applying for colleges and stuff, like, she was the one that did, like, all the research, and, like, it was all on her, and, like, she had all of that put on her. So then when it was my turn to, like, go to college, like, she was the one that was helping me, so it was kind of nice just because, like, I had someone like that. But also, like, it's different, like, if you have, like, parents who both went to, like, Stanford or both went to, like, some really great university and they know how to work the system and they know how to do all that, but like, you know, like I think it's connections, yeah. Like I don't know if how like that is for you. Like I know your brother, how old is he now?
I think he's 15 now.
So like he's gonna be applying to college soon too, so like you're gonna be the one that's gonna have to help him, right?
I mean, that's what I'm planning on doing, but also like I'm just so busy with stuff here.
Yeah.
Like I was hoping that I would like, you know, be more involved in my brother's like high school education, just because like we have a 5-year age gap, so we're not as close, I would say, because of our age. But, you know, I really want to, I know like he struggles with school sometimes. He just transferred to a new school this school year, and is doing a lot better than he was at his last school, which was like a private religious school, and now he's at a public school. And like I want to help him. By the time he's like really ready to do that, I should be graduated, but I also want to continue to grad school, so like I don't know if I'll be able to have the time. So I feel like I was super privileged because I was able to have my uncle help me, and like he was a first gen student because like when my dad's side of the family immigrated here, he was like, I guess he was like very young, like elementary school, and he became a dependent at like age 16 and like just worked, and like my grandparents, so his parents are like super old, so he didn't really have like the same like I guess like normal relationship most people have with their parents, I guess. And so he was like very, very independent from a young age, and then he just like really like worked good in school. And so he saw all like the shit show that is when it comes like when how do I fucking word this? Okay, you can cut this part fucking out. So sorry, okay, I'm gonna start over. So I'm really lucky to have my uncle, and the fact that he was able to help me apply to colleges is like a privilege that, you know, I didn't realize I had like waiting for me when I was in high school, when I was in middle school. Like I didn't even know that my grades mattered in high school until my junior year, second semester. So like that's how disconnected I was with like, you know, just like college application process. And because of his experience, like when he came to the United States, he was like elementary school age. He learned English here. He became independent at 16, and just like worked, just like basically raised himself, I guess. Also raised me a little bit, and like if it wasn't for him, I definitely don't think I would be in the place I am today. And I know that my brother was also lucky to have him as an uncle, because if I'm not able to do what he did for me, for my brother, like I know my uncle will be able to do it. So like there's definitely a lot of privilege in having, you know, a family member, especially somebody who's willing to help. Like, you know, not all family members are willing to help in that way. So that's just like something I'm grateful for, and something that like totally just changed the path for me as a first gen student. Yeah, so that's like also something, you know, people I guess don't really take into account is, you know, that's a connection. Like my uncle's a connection to me, and I got lucky with that. Yeah.
I think also like being part of the first gen like community and being like POC, it's always great to find your community on campus wherever you go. Willamette is a pretty small school, so like I think all of us are like POCs who are first gen are easily able to like find others who are kind of like us. I don't know what it's like at bigger schools, how that works, or if they even have like a center for equality and stuff like that. But we have our Center for Equity and Equality.
And empowerment.
And empowerment. I did that so wrong. You know, LOL. But I think like being like a first year when I came to college, I definitely was like, I want to join all these clubs. I want to be a part of this. I want to be part of that. And finding Alianza was like the best thing for me. It's like our Latinx club on campus that isn't Spanish club. It's a Latinx-centered club where Latinx students can get together and just bitch and complain about living on a white campus. And yes, the whites are allowed to come, but as long as they're nice and, like, don't be problematic and shit like that. But I think definitely, like, being able to be in a space like that is really great. Because then, like, you know, like, you just take time out of your day to hang out with others that are, like, your friends, you know? Like, I think I went to the E&E today and I just took a nap, watched some TV. But it was nice because, like, you're in a space that you feel comfortable in and you're surrounded by people who are going through the same shit that you're going through, you know? Like, I think that's really important.
I always joke around about how, like, I would, like, leave my backpack in the E&E for hours and I wouldn't worry about anybody stealing anything. But I wouldn't be doing that in Gowdy. And, like, it's funny because, like, you know, all of our, like, white peers would never, like, I feel like, I mean, I'm not going to name any names, but there's some people who go to the E&E sometimes and they don't leave their stuff in there the same way that, like, we do. And I notice it and I'm like, LOL, do you think, like, we're going to take your stuff? Like, and, like, I've known them for a couple of years and it's like they still just don't feel comfortable leaving their stuff in there. It's like, why is that? And, like, yeah, that's just a joke I make. Like, LOL, I trust the E&E more than Gowdy to leave my stuff in. And like, the E&E is, anybody can go in there. But I just know that because there's the people in there who are in there all the time, I trust them enough where I know nothing will happen to my stuff in there.
Wow. I never thought of that. I like that. I started leaving my stuff in there recently, too, and I'm cool with it.
Yeah, I left a mic in there for a week.
Yeah, you always leave your iPad in there.
Oh, yeah, I do.
Just leaves it lying around. Yeah. Now, I'm not saying, well, steal it, but I'm just saying you're leaving your iPad there all the damn time. Yeah, and so the E&E is, like, a really great place where we can fuck around and have fun and, like, hang out and leave our iPads there whenever we want. So, moving into a different, like, subject within the first gen, like, life and advice, what would you say is, like, something that you've noticed as, like, a first gen student sets you apart from other, like, students here while you're in college?
I guess for me, I would say, like, one thing that has really shocked me is how comfortable people are with asking their professors for help. And I didn't know it was, like, it was one of those moments where you didn't know that you felt that kind of, or, like, I didn't know I felt that way until I realized, like, it is because I'm first gen, plus, you know, other identities, like, being POC. But, like, I read a thread on Twitter recently about how, like, usually first-gen students don't ask as many questions in class, or, like, they're hesitant to, you know, talk to professors or go to office hours because they don't want to seem, like, stupid, or they don't want to seem like they're wasting their professor's time. Like, and I didn't, like, you know how sometimes you see stuff like that and you're like, wow, I experienced that, but I didn't know that was a thing?
Yes.
Kind of like that. So, like, just recently I've gotten, I think I'm really only close to one professor, maybe like 1.5, I don't know, but then I hear some of my friends who, like, you know, they're just friends with like somebody in each department, and it's like, how do you do that? Like, just at, like, raising my hand in class is like, I'm so scared that I'm gonna say something wrong, or, like, my professor's gonna misunderstand me, or somebody in my class is gonna, like, question what I'm saying. So just, like, little things like that. And I didn't realize that was a thing until just, like, a few months ago when I read about that experience that somebody was talking about.
Yeah. I too also, like, the whole, like, professor thing, I felt that, like, I don't know what it was, but, like, coming here, I just hate talking to professors. I hate office hours. I hate running into them. Like, I'm a scared little bitch when I see them. Like, I run away. I think, like, after, like, love Twitter. Twitter helps me realize a lot of things, you know, because they're so smart on there. And I've, like, you know, seen some tweets where it's like, yeah, like, honestly, like, I feel the same way. Like, I think it's also the fact that, like, I grew up in, like, you know, Mexican mom and Mexican dad household, and we're, like, Catholic, and, like, very much, like, respect your elders, respect your teachers, respect your professors, like, don't bother them, like, all that type of stuff. And so, like, coming here, like, you know, like, I didn't want to go up to this, like, white professor who, like, so much smarter than me, like, knows everything in the entire world, and I'm, like, a little dumbass right here, like, I don't know what to do. Also, like, you know, I'm a first gen, like, I don't know how fucking college works, like, I don't know if I should be coming to you for this or not, like, should I be emailing you when I'm feeling sick and, like, you know, when I don't go to class? Should I be emailing you about an assignment that I don't understand? Like, how does this work? How do I navigate this, like, whole, like, thing right now, being a first year and being, like, so far away from home. And, like, you know, you can't ask your parents, like, do I go to office hours or not? And then they're like, what is that?
Yeah.
And you're just like, I don't fucking know either. So, you know. But I think, like, even now in my senior year, like, I still am afraid of fucking professors. Like, I only go to, like, 1 or 2 professors that I know and I love, and that's because, like, they're POC, or, like, I have built that relationship with them for 4 years, you know? I think even now, like, it's daunting to, like, see your professor, and you're just like, I don't know what to do, and I don't know what to say, and then they're like, why don't you come to office hours? And you're just like, I don't fucking know, I'm scared of you, that's why. But, yeah, I definitely feel that with the whole, like, navigating that whole system and stuff of that.
Yeah, I see that a lot as well. Like, yeah, like, coming in, I, like, didn't really know how things worked, and I, like, had a lot of questions, but didn't feel, like, comfortable asking people because I was like, I don't want to sound, like, dumb. And, like, I don't know, I feel like a lot of times I, like, put that, not blame, but I don't know how to describe it, but, like, I kind of put the blame on myself and thinking about, like, oh, I'm just, like, really awkward and I don't know how to, like, talk to them, or, like, I'm just, like, I don't know how to, like, have conversations with them, but, like, really thinking about it, like, it makes sense that, like as a person of color, like, I didn't feel comfortable going to, like, my white professor and asking questions when in the class, like, they're kind of, like, intimidating and they present, like, information in a certain way that isn't really accessible, and, like, that doesn't make me feel comfortable, like, asking them these questions, because I feel like they'll be like, really, like, that's what you're asking, like, you could have just found that information somewhere else, or, like, shouldn't you know that already? But I think another big thing is, like talking to, like, yeah, like, another big experience of, like, thinking about, like, my, I guess, identity as a first-gen student, is thinking about, like, how I talk to my family about, like, what I want to do in the future. Like, growing up, I've always, like, thought I wanted to be a lawyer, and so, like, that's easy to communicate because I can just say, like, oh, like, I want to go to law school, and, like, that sounds, like, fancy and, like, like, important. So,
and then they get really excited for you, and they're like, oh my god, our daughter, the lawyer, we're gonna be making bank, she'll be great, so then you have all that pressure on you to be a lawyer, and then when you get to college and you don't want to go down that career path, you're like, oh, I'm fucking screwed.
Then you feel like a failure. You're like, wow, I set myself up, and I'm sorry, you can continue. Because, yeah, like, and I still, like, partly I still want to go to law school just because I, like, would want to go into immigration law, but, like, through, like, classes and courses I've taken, I'm like, okay, like, I don't know if I want to, like, I don't think, like, there should be restrictions on immigration, and I don't think these systems should exist, so, like, why would I want to go into them if they're, like, fucked up anyways? But, so I've been having, like, that struggle, but, like, I don't even really, like, when I talk to my family and, like, when I talk to them about what I'm learning about in school or, like, what I'm majoring in, like, I don't really know how to, like, communicate that, and, like, especially in Spanish, like, at first I was like, how do you say sociology in Spanish? Like, sociología? That sounds right, like, but I don't know. And so, yeah, like, one of my friends that I made in colloquium, she's white, and, like, she, like, would talk to her family all the time and be like, oh, like, what classes should I take, like, next year? And, like, her mom would be like, oh, you should take an art history class because that, like, comes in handy in the future when you're, like, going to events or whatever and things like that. And I was like, what the fuck?
Like,
I never...
I didn't even know that. What?
And, like, yeah, her mom, like, basically tells her what to take. And, like, oh, you should take an econ class because that'll come in handy for this. And I'm just like, I don't fucking know. I just signed up for classes that, like...
You think sound great.
Yeah. Or, like, professors that I, like, feel comfortable with. Yeah. But, yeah, just, like, I love my family and I wish I could, like, share more about what I'm learning with them. But sometimes it's, like, I don't really know how to communicate it, and, like, sometimes it's, like, hard to, like, go beyond that, and so I think that's, like, a big thing of, like, being first gen, that, like, I can learn about something, but then it's, like, how do I express that, like, how do I communicate that, and, like, I
think I also experienced something like that with, like, growing up, like, I, too, was like, I'm gonna be a lawyer, and they're like, yes, you know, like, be a lawyer, do that, and I think, like, I don't know if it's, like, POC parents just specifically have, like, such high expectations of their kids who go to college because they didn't go to college, so they're just, like, they're going to do great things. Like, they're going to go to college, they're going to be, like, more successful than we've ever been, and it's, like, it kind of overshadows, like, your own happiness in a sense of, like, what you want to do. And coming here, I was like, yeah, like, I'm a major in politics, and, like, that wasn't what I wanted to do. That wasn't what was making me happy. And I think, like, being around, like, my white peers who are, like, you know, like, people who are like, I'm going to do film studies, I'm going to do music, and I'm just like, you're gonna major in those things that you're not gonna succeed in life later. Like that's what my parents would say. Like, why are you gonna major in music? You're gonna end up on the street like stringing a guitar, asking for pennies, like, you know. And it's just like, and then but then it's like you're surrounded by all these white people who literally have like these parents who went to college and like they have those like connections and like they're telling their kids like, oh yeah, major in music, you're gonna be fine. And it's like over here in like a POC corner, you're kind of like, don't major in music because you're going to end up on the fucking corner, you know, and shit like that. And so you're just kind of, like, daunted and, like, you don't want to do that. But then it's kind of, like, getting over that and being like, no, like, this is what I want to do. And then, like, conveying that to your parents, like, yeah, I'm not going to be a lawyer. I'm going to major in film studies. And then they're like, what does that even mean? And you're just like, I don't know what it means, but it's going to happen, and we'll see how that goes. But I think, like, and also, like, I know, like, some people who, like, have, like, parents who went to college, like, they, like, can send them, like, essays, and they'll, like, read those essays, and they'll, like, help them with the essays. Or some white people literally, like, will send their parents, like, some of their, like, chemistry worksheets, and they'll help them do that shit, too. And it's just, like, bitch, like, I don't get help like that. Like, I just go online and Google this shit. Like, it's not the same.
Okay, yeah, that's fucking annoying because, like, in thinking about that same friend, like, we're both applying for, like, the same job our first year, and, like, I remember we had to do, like, a cover letter, and we had to do, like, a resume and whatever, and, like, I'd already, like, learned how to do that because I'd, like, had to have jobs in the past and whatever, and, like, she was just like, how do I do, like, a cover letter? Like, what do I write? And, like, asking, like, her parents what to put in it, and her parents were fucking like, oh, like, did Andrea write one? Like, maybe you can ask her, like, and, like, this type of thing, and I'm like, you literally fucking have their help. You, like, your parents are fucking lawyers, like, both of them, and, like, you can ask them for help, and, like you said, like, you can have them read your essays, and you're still like, oh, my essay shit, like, I'm having my parents, like, read it over and, like, fix things for me and, like, change things, and I'm like, you can't be complaining about having, like, I mean, you can to an extent, but also, like, you have parents who, like, well, I have parents too, but, like, you have people who can, like, read over your essays, like, and, like, make them better, and, like, make them sound like what, like, another white professor would want them to sound like, and you're still, like, complaining about it, and it's like,
Yeah, that's a feeling that, like, I didn't know what, I feel like so many things, I didn't know that was a feeling that other people had, or that came with being first gen until, like, recently, because, like, you just, like, it's just so normalized, you're like, oh, it's, like, you internalize it, you're like, oh, well, that's, you know, they got lucky with that, like, I didn't, like, that's just, I just have to work a little bit harder, you know, it's normal, but then you realize, no, that's actually, like, fucked up, and, like, it sucks, and we work through it, but then we're also seen as, like, oh, well, they'll get through it, you know, students of color work hard, they're resilient, and then that also, like, puts a lot of unnecessary pressure that's put on us by, like, professors who are like, oh, like, they don't take into account that we have to work sometimes a lot harder than, you know, other peers because of our identities and because of the lack of resources we have and connections and stuff like that. But yeah, like, my roommate, my first year, she's like, oh, I'm gonna, I'll just say it. You can cut this out, sorry. Okay.
Wait, you want me to cut this out?
No, I'll say it.
Okay.
oh?
My roommate, my first year, like, her parents are pretty wealthy, her family's pretty wealthy, and her dad's, like, a lawyer, and I would just remember, like, during midterms or final season, like, she would be on the phone with them for hours. We were taking some of the same classes, and so, you know, I would be working on my take-home exams or studying or doing, like, my study guides, and we would work on them together, but after we worked on them together, she would, like, have that extra step of calling her dad and calling her other relatives to help her, and they literally would share a Google Doc together and, like, go through each answer, you know, where, like, they would spend hours on the phone, and I would be like, what the fuck is she doing in the hallway for 3 hours from, like, 8 a.m. to, what's 3 hours from 8 a.m.? 11? 11 a.m.? Like, you know, because final schedule and all of that. And I just be like, why the fuck is she in the hallway so long? And then I realized, like, oh, she's literally going through each problem with people, like, family members that can help her. And I'm just like, LOL, my parents, like, my mom asks me what my major is every other month. Like, she doesn't even fucking know what I'm studying.
What are you doing again?
And, like, she, like, knows at the moment, but she doesn't understand it. Like, I don't think she'll ever understand it, and I don't think it's, like, obviously, I don't think my mom's, like, stupid. I just think it's, like, it's just hard to communicate because of, like, you know, Western education and all of that. But there's, like, stuff like that where it's just, like, damn, like, you know, I'd be so fucking far if, you know, I had that shit.
Oh, yeah.
Like, you're still turning in mediocre shit with the parents that fucking went to law school.
Damn.
Okay, I've dropped my mic.
That's all we have time for today. I've really enjoyed this conversation, and I'm sure we'll continue to have many more. Thank you for tuning in to Café con Fan.
Yeah, and thanks so much, Bethel, for coming in and being our guest. We loved you.
Thank
it
you
was
for
great.
having me.
Yeah. Well, hopefully next time we have a podcast, you can come back, or we'll bring some more friends over and have a great time. So, I'm Denise, just putting my name out there.
I'm Andrea.
And I'm Bethel.
And have a good day, y'all.
Yeah.